Hello friends, I welcome you all to this demonstration of swipe method. Swipe method is something new which I have deciphered, and I am equally excited and thrilled to introduce this concept of neuro-linguistic programming to you people via this video. And swipe method and many other equally powerful and immensely transformative methods will be part of my upcoming book, which I have already announced to you that Life Hacks Life book which I am writing, which will be a thoroughly transformative journey. And as you go along the book, you will find that not only you are transforming, but my voice will go with you along the course so that you can have wonderful transformations across the span when you are reading the book. So without wasting a further time, let's get back to swipe method. And what I mean by swipe method, I'll try to deliver entire details in this video module. So these days everybody is using mobile phones, aren't we? And what we need to do in swipe method is it can be used for anything to everything. Like I personally use it for more of transformations when I require for behavioral changes, especially in the cases of smoking de-addiction, which I am using. And you can use it, and after you learn it properly, you can use it for transforming any kind of behavior. And as you must be knowing by now that whatever is the image or the thoughts or the feelings which goes inside our head is what actually transforms or manifests into the behavior. So for example, if this person has behavior A, which is a behavior A which is unresourceful, and this is an unresourceful behavior, and we want as an output of our therapy sessions the behavior, for example, I label this as the expected behavior or the outcome behavior. So I label this as behavior E. We label this as behavior E or the expected behavior. Okay, so one wishes for an expected behavior but is actually stuck in the unresourceful behavior. And when you ask the questions which I mentioned today in the group, that what do you do? What do you do to become depressed? What do you do to become depressed? Or you can ask another very powerful question, that how do you decide that it's time to become depressed? Okay, and another powerful question which you can ask is what goes on inside your head, so as to become depressed or so as to feel in that particular way. And once you ask these questions, and when you are calibrating the client, you get this unresourceful event predominantly in the form of the representational systems. That is, you will be either getting a visual modality or a kinesthetic modality or an auditory output, and usually in most of the clients it's a combination of these three. So now when you have got the first image, that is the first unresourceful event, let's park this aside. Now let's move on how to proceed with the method. So just remember, currently we have deciphered this first part. Now to reach the expected behavior, we need to take the client through a journey of events. That is how the behaviors transform, and they transform for permanent. That is, the change which we are going to install in the mind of the client is going to be permanent. So from moving from A to E, there has to be a series of events. So label them as B, C, D, and mind you that it's not something hard and fast which needs to happen, that you have to move from A to E. There can be n number of events, or the memories or images which you want to implant inside the head of the client for a more resourceful outcome. There can be n number of events what I want to stress upon. So for example, if I label this as B, C, D. So another very important point which I want to stress over here is that always whenever you are doing any behavioral transformation, keep one thing in mind, that any behavior is either pain driven or pleasure driven. I've learned this from my mentor Mohammed Rafi, that all the behaviors are either pain driven or pleasure driven. So that is what I keep on telling to my clients, to my friends, that it's pain and pleasure principle. So pain and pleasure principle. And this is the principle which you also want as a therapist to be explained to the client by means of therapy. That is when the transformation happens and it is absolutely permanent. So what I want you is these two images, these two memories which you want to implant in the mind of the patient should be painful images. Should be painful or pain-inducing images, so that the client recognizes that the current state in which he or she is stuck is a painful one. These need to be painful, while the D and E, when we are moving towards the expected behavior, these have to be the resourceful images. So these must be pleasure-inducing. These must be pleasure-inducing. So you see what we have done till now. From unresourceful behavior, we are taking the client to an expected behavior via a series of events, via a journey which takes the client on a roller coaster ride from a painful event to a pleasurable event. From a painful event to a pleasurable event, you can even make it more powerful by adding what I call as fractionation. What do you mean by adding fractionation to this? Is when you are moving from unresourceful painful event, you go to another painful event, then slightly add a bit of pleasurable event. So this event can be a pleasurable event also. Again, take that client from pleasurable to pain, then pain to pleasure, just keeping in mind one thing, that the end result, that the expected behavior should always be a pleasurable event, so that the transformation becomes very, very permanent. And fractionation, mind you, is immensely powerful. As I have mentioned in the message also, in the today's group message, that I learned this from Richard Bandler, one of the videos I was watching of Richard Bandler, and Bandler said one thing which struck me like thundering bolt, and he said that for any of the therapy in NLP to be very, very effective and to make the effect compounding, is what you need to do is you need to add three elements. What I'm stressing upon is very important, is you need to add three elements to any of the therapy. And those three elements are, if you can see it on the board, I'll write in the board, that you need to fractionate. You need to fractionate, which I just told. You need to repeat the procedure. Repetition is really, really important. Repetition is a key. And the third thing, which is very, very important, is doing it fast enough, doing it at a speed. Okay, so this is really, really very important. And okay, so the three very, very important elements are that you need to fractionate, you need to repeat the therapy, you need to repeat the therapy a few number of times for it to be becoming permanent, and you need to do it fast. You need to do it fast. When you are repeating it, every time the speed should increase. It should be done very, very fast. Okay, so now coming to the entire procedure, how we do it actually. Now you have all this sets of images being ready. When you are explaining these painful events to the patient, for example, when I do with my smoking cessation clients. So what I do is I make them aware, and which they are already aware, because most of the time they come to me with lots of symptoms because of smoking, which are usually breathlessness, and they have cough, and the cough is not responding to medicines. They require inhalers. Some patients have coughing up of blood in the sputum also, and many symptoms like that. So they are already aware that they are in an unresourceful behavior and they are stuck in that. What I do as a therapist, as a doctor also, that I give them two further scenarios and describe them vividly in details, so that they can have memories associated with this, which I note them on the paper, that these and these are the possibilities. For example, in part B, I will say that I'm describing to you in detail for a better understanding, that you know that you smoke, and you know that you are having problems because of that, and it's not only you who are having the problems. Have you ever seen your small the children in the house? Have you ever seen the children in your house? And these days they are also quite oftenly getting the attacks of cough. And you know the reason why? Because the smoke which you are doing is also harming them. Just imagine them for a moment coughing up lots and lots of blood in the sputum. How terrible would that be? So the child getting symptomatic becomes the painful event number one for us. Now I increase the intensity of the pain by giving another scenario, that it's okay if you don't want to quit right now, but there will be certainly a time in the future when you will have no other option than quitting, because at that time you won't be able to walk like you are right now, and you might be bedridden, and that bed could be of the hospital as well. And as I'm showing you right now that you are having breathlessness, that could turn into a state of being totally oxygen dependent. Just imagine that scenario of you lying in the hospital with oxygen, with all the life support systems, and nobody over there to take care of your children. And your children might even be forced to beg, to borrow, to spread their hands in front of somebody for their daily basic necessities, because their father is unfortunately being bedridden. So this painful scenario which I have described so vividly becomes the painful event number C. Then I go to the pleasure-inducing scenarios. And meanwhile, when I am doing this, there are lots, like you have seen, there are lots of embedded commands which I am giving to the patient, which will continue being which will help in our transformative process as well. And by this time, when you have already done this part, there's lots of behavioral shifts which have started to happen. But I want this change to become rock solid and permanent. So I continue, and now I'm fractionating it further from painful to a pleasurable one. So now comes the pleasure-inducing part. So now I will describe a very pleasure-inducing part. This is how I usually do it. And now, as you have seen, the dreadful consequences which are possible if you continue to walk upon this path, or what you can do is, from right now, from today onwards, you can take the other path, the path towards the depression, the path where your children are always going to be with you, in your presence, under your guardianship, and you can be rest assured that they will have a beautiful life, and so do you. And I'm sure that you want that your children have a beautiful life, don't you? Because All the parents want a beautiful, beautiful life for their children. And you'll be able to spend the entire life free of all the symptoms with your family. So the spending time with the family becomes a pleasure-inducing scenario. And now the patient has a very beautiful image over here, which is the pleasure-inducing, the time with family. So I label this as time with family. Okay? And then is the expected behavior, which I have already started inducing in the patient. Then the last outcome is, I will describe the scenario like this, that now as you are already free, so just notice the language which I am using over here, that I am future forecasting, I am forecasting it, but that too in a positive connotation, that now as you are already free now, so see how I use the words. Now as you are already free of the behavior which you wanted to get rid of, and you have already seen the potential benefits of becoming free right now, you know that being free from this behavior will be a very, very, very fruitful scenario for you in the future. And you realize the potential implications, the potential within you, and you take the decision right now, which I'm sure you have already taken by now. And you can see the future, the beautiful future which lies ahead of you if you continue to walk on this path which takes you to the liberation. And you can see that you have the peak of the health. You can visualize yourself over there having the peak of the health, having the best of the time of your life, and not only your health is flourishing, your business, your family, your relationships, everything is at its peak state. And that is because you being the man you are, you being the good parent you are, have taken the right step, and you can visualize that scenario very well. So this thing which I have molded as not only health benefits, but the benefits of the relationship, benefits in the wealth, and many other modalities in life, becomes the expected behavior which the client needs to have, which the client wants to have. So now we have all these images set ready with us. Now is the time just to do the pattern, and do it fast, do it quickly, repeat it as n number of times, and repeat this scenario n number of times. How it is to be done, I'll tell you. And it can be done with eyes closed or eyes open as the client is comfortable. All the 5 set of images, or 5 or 6, or it can be more also. All the images now are ready with us. Have you used a mobile? So many a times what happens is we keep on swiping through the images. It's pretty common these days. So that is what exactly we are going to do in the swipe method. So remember, we have an unresourceful image. So the first unresourceful image, you ask the client to close the eyes and remember about the first unresourceful event, and that is the reason precisely why I jotted down a few details about each of the events. That is exactly what you need to do. Describe the unresourceful event vividly in terms of visual, kinesthetic, and auditory modalities, and when it's very, very clear, you can calibrate by the physiology of the client. You say that swipe the image to image number 2, and you'll have to describe it to the client also. Most of the times the client remember the images in the serial order, because when we have laid the foundation, we have made it in such a vivid manner that they remember it. However, you as a therapist needs to tell from outside also. So swipe the image to image number 2, in which your children are getting problems. Then As the client starts feeling a bit nervous or uncomfortable, ask them to swipe to the image number 3, swipe it. And as they move to the image number 3, the restlessness might increase further. So just carry on, just carry on. And as they swipe to image number 3, they are feeling that, they are visualizing that painful scenarios which might come in their life. Then ask that swipe to image number 4, swipe to image number 4, and now it's a pleasurable inducing. They can see a bright gloomy future for their children in image number 4. And when the height of the feelings is there, when the feelings are at height, intensified, you can calibrate that on a scale of 1 to 10, they are already on a scale up to 9 or 10. You ask them to swipe it again to the last part, and that is when the change work is done. And you can calibrate very well from the client's physiology. And just to top it up, a few more points on that. We are almost done with the procedure. It can be done for anything. What I do at a few times it is required that while I am moving from behavior A to behavior E, simultaneously I can anchor that state also, especially the state of the pleasure. When the client is in that pleasurable state, and I am calibrating from outside that the intensity of these pleasurable feelings which I have induced is at a 9 or a 10 that is when I anchor it precisely. You can use any of the techniques for anchoring. So I anchor also these two states, and it's a wonderful work, and the behavioral transformations which we do by this method are very rock solid and permanent if done properly. And remember, it can happen many a times that running the loop once gives you results, but I advise you that you can run the loop n number of times, and up to a point that client might not see the first 3 or 4 images and start seeing only the expected outcome. That is why these 3 steps are also very important. Brings into picture the fractionation, the repetition and speed, and when you do it n number of times, it should happen very quickly at the very sound of your clicking of thumb. It should happen, the sweeping of the images, it should happen at this speed, and that is when the change becomes rock solid. So I really hope you have a wonderful learning and wonderful transformative experiences, happy learning, and I can't wait any further, and you can see that I'm already excited. I'm sure that you also are really excited for the launch of the book. Just wait for the upcoming day, and I have decided that it should be launched by 31st of January, and absolutely wonderful and amazing content is waiting for you. So just keep a track on my status updates. And thank you so much. This was Dr. Ankush, your friend and coach, and always there for any further queries and always open to new learnings. Thank you so much.